Send us your name and town to the One Africa TV's WhatsApp on 081 200 6659 or send an SMS to 555. One Africa TV. It just gets better.
Good day. Today's economic lesson is about economic systems in the Namibian NSCC syllabus. It is 1.2b. We will look at the different economic systems. You get a traditional economic system. We get market economic systems, planned economic systems, and then we will, in the next lesson, look at the mixed economic system, which Namibia is an example of. Namibia used the mixed economic system. There are no country in the world that purely use the market economic system, but we will look at countries which is examples of market economic systems, although that they don't have 100% the features of a market economic system. Okay, this economic systems that we are talking about is what each government use to manage their economies. They use these features, which we will discuss, to manage the economy of their country. Okay, for you to remember, if you work on a market economic system or a planned economic system, there are other names that they can also call a market economic system. They call them sometimes a capitalist system, or they call it a planned economic system, a command economy. So that are features or other names for these economic systems. So let us just in short start with a traditional economic system. A traditional economic system you normally find or you can find in certain parts of our country. But the more the country develops, the less these systems are used. So we get it in some of our regions that they still apply this type of economic system. They say this is a system that are self-sustained farming and that there are barter involved in this system. So what that means is if I can offer you 5 bags of maize, then you will offer me, say, 2 sheep instead of that. So there's no money involved. That is exchange one product for another or one good for a service, and that is called barter. Then, so remember, it has to do with self-sustained farming. It means you just produce for you and your family. There are no selling of these goods to the rest of the world or other parts of the country. Okay, then we get the market economic system. As we have said, it can be called capitalist, or some people also call it free market systems. Okay, a free market system have certain features that all resources, all assets, all firms are privately owned in this economic system. And not only privately owned, but also controlled by the private sector. So prices are influenced by the price mechanism, or as we can say, by the demand and supply for the product. No influence of the government in any of this. The aim of this economic system is that they maximize profits. So that is what if they start off a business, that they take that in mind. When they allocate resources, they take this aim of maximizing profits in mind. Okay, all resource allocations in this economic system, which we call the free market system, is according to the demand. So that is what the consumer wants, the quantities it wants, and the quality it wants. And as I said, allocation of resources is according to the demand and the supply. What is the supply about? What the producer can produce and in what quantities and how you will produce it. So this allocation of resources, in short, depend on what the demand is, and then that is what will be supplied by the supplier. Okay, the last part of economic systems, there are very limited government influence. The government influence in this economic system is mainly about the security and defense of the country. Okay, the next economic system that we are going to discuss and look at features is the planned economic system. Here I've already said to you that it can also be called a command economy. Some people call it a centrally planned economic system or economies. The aim of this system is not to maximize profits. Their aim is to improve the welfare of everyone in the country equally. So it doesn't, in this economic system, the welfare or the standard of living will not be as high as in a market economic system. That is, but it will be more equally distributed. So very important, they improve, their aims is all to improve the welfare, but equally. Okay, so, and if any profits is earned by any government business, all the money go to the government. And the government use this to improve and provide an equally shared wealth in the country between all the citizens. Then the government is also, in this case, deciding on what the price will be for products. So the government set on all products, goods and services, the price. The government in this planned economy have set up a 5-year plan. They employ officials to do it. And here they decide on what the production decisions will be, who will produce what and in what quantities. The government also make consumption decisions. They decide what the consumer wants and in what quantities they need. For example, bread, how much bread each family needs. So in this case, you can see the choice of the consumer is very limited if the government decides on your behalf what your consumption decisions will be. The government also make distribution decisions. They will allocate it, the goods and services to whomever they see or to whomever they feel need it. That is what the government do. They will also decide in what quantities and qualities they will distribute it to me and you and everyone that are involved in this economic system. Okay, just an important note, never use the words it and things in your explanations. Try to avoid it and try to use, not say the things, rather use the word goods and services or products if you talk about that. Okay, you can use a group work in this class, and let your students work for you in a group, and you can look at these features that we have discussed of the market and the planned economy. And you can decide, I give you 10 minutes normally for that, and you can decide what is disadvantages of each of these economic systems where you come to the market and the planned economic system. Okay, after 10 minutes, we can look at the disadvantages of a planned economic system. There's no choice because the government take away that choice. They choose on your behalf. So no choice in quality and quantities of products that you want. The planning of the government, where they use this 5-year plan, is normally also, or oftenly, also out of touch with what the consumer really wants. And then there is no incentive for workers to work in these businesses that belong to the government, because you have heard in the previous, or seen in the previous slides, that all the profits of the businesses go to the government. So it's not that if you work more that you will earn more or you will share in the profits. So that's why they can say there's no incentive. Please remember, in a planned economy, all resources belong to the government. That also means all businesses belong to the government. Okay, then the quality of the products that are produced is normally very poor because there's no competition between firms. You don't have any incentive to produce a better product because you want the customer to buy your product rather than the other business or the other firm's products. This 5-year program is also very costly and take up a very long time. So time consuming is also a problem. In this planned economy, another disadvantage is that you often get situations where you have shortages or surpluses of goods and services on the market. And then because you're working with this 5-year program, it takes a very long time to solve these shortages and surpluses. Okay, now we look at a market economy, and we will look at what is bad and what is a disadvantage for a market economy if you use it. In this economy, the prices can sometimes, you remember I've said prices is set according to demand and supply, but sometimes prices can be very high. And that is not, especially if there are only one producer of a product. If there are only one producer, we said that this producer has monopolistic powers or is a monopoly. So then he can set the prices at any level he wants. So, and that is very negative for the poor and low-income people in the country. So say, for example, in our country, we talk about NamPower, or we talk about NamWater. They are the only suppliers of water and electricity. And they have monopolistic powers in what they do. So in cases like that, they can actually, in a market economy, set the price at any level they want. And then it will not be good for the poor people because this water is a necessity for them. Okay, then the second problem about this is if there are monopolies in an economy that are the only producer of a good and a service, they can force out, because they are so big, they can force out the small firms out of the market, that the small firms can't compete against them and then close down. Prices in this market is also very unstable. Like in a planned economy, you'd know the government set the prices, so it stay the same. But in a market economy, the prices is determined by demand and supply. So the prices can fluctuate a lot, and that affect planning of a business and when you try to budget for a month or a year ahead. If the government is not involved in a market, you remember we have said in a market economy, the government is only involved in security and defense. Then there will not be enough merit goods and services like schools. We will come back and explain clearly to you what merit goods and services is. But for now, I can tell you that in a market economy, they will not supply enough. And that is example of schools and hospitals. Then there's another problem that in a market economy, public goods and services are also not supplied. And we will also explain this to you why. The main reason is there's no price attached to this product, and the private sector can't maximize their profits when they produce this. An example of a public good is a street light. So these types of products, merit goods and public goods, are not supplied enough or at all in a market economy. So that is a disadvantage for a market economy. The last disadvantage is that they will, in the market economy, the distribution of wealth is normally very unequal, and that there are a high percentage of or a small percentage of very wealthy people in this market economic systems. Okay, in these systems, again, remember a market economy, their aim is to maximize profits. So to do that, they don't take externalities into consideration. So if they pollute a river or pollute the air in an area, they are more concerned about the profits than the people that need to use that clean river. Then the last point, a market economic system is very unstable because this economic system goes through booms and slumps, and it is difficult for anyone to plan in this system. Okay, just in conclusion for today, you must know the features of a market and a planned economy, and you must know so far the disadvantages for both these economies.
In a corner of southern Africa lies a vast and sparse land, where endless horizons, dramatic scenery, and untouched wilderness abound. (1,500 kilometers of harsh desert coastline, a mosaic of biodiversity, sub-Saharan savanna, acacia bushland, encased by 2 deserts. home to wildlife and wilderness abundant, yet ever at risk. This is Namibia, home to some of the most noteworthy conservation success stories across the globe. Initiatives forged, manned, and driven by passionate individuals and groups.
People are busy there walking for more than 45 kilometers a day.
Special species and wild locations under constant threat from an increasingly destructive developing world.
One of the world's true survivors.
This is the story of the Namibian wilderness, the stories of the enigmatic wildlife and natural wonders of her realm.
They are not a threat to anyone, if you understand them.
This is the story of those determined to preserve it, and thereby themselves.
I don't think I want to tell my children one day that we had rhinos in Namibia. I want to show them live rhinos.
This is the story of the last defenders.
We have been tracked them for about 7 days, and on the 7th day, we come across the butchers, and there was a shooting. We are not armed. We having a camera and GPS. We are just hiding behind the bushes. If I don't protect this species, who's going to do that? So is that why I sacrificed my life to go on conserve the rhinos.
Armed out in the field with basically a notebook against poachers that are armed with highly dangerous weapons and more. How is this an equal fight?
I started right on the ground as a tracker, and I worked all the way up to be the CEO now, and I know how hard it is. It's commitment and dedication and the patience that you have for the animal. It's really hard. It's like you had something in your house that you are protecting for so long, and when you go away from home, somebody comes and kills you.
Prevention is important. Help prevent the spread of illness and keep yourself and others well. Hand washing is one of the most effective ways of preventing the spread of germs. Wash your hands regularly with soap and hot water, scrubbing your hands thoroughly for at least 20 seconds. Hand sanitizers can be used but are not recommended as a substitute for hand washing. Use sanitizers in addition to hand washing or in a situation where soap and water are not available. To avoid spreading germs, limit sharing of personal items such as utensils, cups, and dishes. Your skin acts as a barrier to germs, but your eyes, nose, and mouth are more vulnerable. Wash your hands thoroughly before touching your face, eating, or drinking. Avoid physical contact with others, including handshakes, fist bumps, high fives, hugs, and kisses. Social distancing is deliberately increasing the physical space between people to avoid spreading germs. While regulations may vary by country or area, the best guideline for social distancing is to maintain a distance of 6 feet from others. Germs can travel through the air from one person to another. If you sneeze or cough, do so into a tissue or the inside of your elbow to prevent the spread of germs. Avoid contact with ill individuals and insist they isolate themselves until they have recovered and are symptom-free. Clean and sanitize frequently touched common surfaces and high-traffic areas in your home and workplace several times a day. Share these guidelines with others and help prevent the spread of illness and maintain a healthy environment. An ounce of prevention is worth a ton of cure.
The mighty Zambezi River, the longest east-flowing river in Africa, a river that flows through 6 countries, home to a plethora of wild species of fauna and flora, a lifeline for many people whose livelihoods are dependent on the abundance the river brings. Globally, communities who live along rivers rely on these rivers to survive. Communities living along the Zambezi call it the river of life, bringing water for their crops and fish as their main protein source. In Namibia, a country situated in sub-Saharan Africa, the Zambezi River sits at the heart of Kaza, the Kavango-Zambezi Trans-Frontier Conservation Area, which is one of the greatest conservation areas on Earth, a stronghold for very many of our most iconic wildlife. I'm right now where the river forms the border between Namibia and Zambia. This enormous water body provides sustenance to a wide array of wildlife, bird and fish species. It's also a lifeline for human beings.
The same communities are the people also who are doing the illegal activities.
The price of fishing has gone up because fish has become scarce.
The more they finish us, the more our life gets harder and harder.
These days, it is very rare to get a big bream, unless in those protected areas.
A small group of community members, together with non-governmental organizations like Namibian Nature Foundation, are fighting back.
We have to start thinking out of the box, to be honest, because what's going to happen is going to be out of this box that we haven't seen before.
By creating protected areas, monitoring and patrolling, fish stocks have a chance at recovery. These are the stories of the people fighting for the continued existence of their communities. These are the last defenders.
Struggling with no food, no what. But we didn't stop. If I don't do it, our young children, they'll never know the fish.
My name is Adora and welcome to a brand new edition of the cool new show called The Eintlik Van. On this show we get to know who our artists really are behind the scenes and what inspires them, what keeps them going, what makes them tick. What are some of your favorite sounds?
Trap music, hip-hop.
Yeah, okay.
Hip-hop, Afro dancehall.
We came from a background whereby we were raised by our grannies. So it's not a shameful thing for me to do because we used to sell and said we would work from Fambolokasi to Okuriangala.
Wala Namibia, this is your boy Tulisan. Don't forget to watch the Eintlik Vibe TV show on One Africa Television.
Accommodation is the ability of the eye to focus on distant and near objects.
And I bring it in contact with the electroscope. What you must keep in mind is positive charge can't move. It is the negative charge that moves.
The first one, EF, is then going to be 0 minus negative 2 over 4 minus negative 4. Look at my signs. If you go wrong there,